I, 28 male, was married to Amy for 6 years, and we had 3 children together. Our sons are now a tween and a pre-tween, and our daughter is a young grammar schooler. Amy passed away 2 years ago from cancer. She was sick for a little over a year and had a terminal diagnosis for 8 months. I helped care for Amy at home with the help of her family, her mom, 4 siblings, and even her grandparents before she died. And her death appeared peaceful, but Amy's twin, Ivy, recently discovered that toward the end, Amy had been dealing with some crap, courtesy of my parents. Per Amy's diary, which she kept before she died, my parents had requested that she write letters to our kids, telling them that she wanted them to have another mom someday soon, and that she wanted them to promise to have their hearts and minds open to that, and to not treat my next wife as just my wife, or just a stepmom, but a mom. They also wanted her to tell the kids to ask me for a new mom within a few months of her death. She was supposed to tell them it was her dying wish, and all sorts of crap. Amy had told them she had recorded videos and written letters, but that those were not words she would put in either. My parents hounded her every second she was alone, and they were visiting. They made her so distressed in the end. According to her diary, my parents told Amy she was a terrible mother and a selfish person for not urging us to move on and find another wife and mom once she was no longer here. I read those pages myself and I was furious. Even more so because my parents have been urging me to date and explore the prospect of remarrying. And even when I said I had no interest in that, they told me it's what Amy would have wanted for me. They even brought up in the last few months that my kids would grow up without a mom, and argued and told them they always would because she died while they were so young. I texted my parents that I knew what they had done and to stay away from me and the kids. They told me they had done nothing wrong and had no regrets about their actions to improve my and my kids' lives. That pushed me over the edge, and I drove to their house to tell them face to face that they repulsed me. To harass a dying woman, to harass my wife, to make her final weeks more stressful than they already were. I told them they were sick. I didn't realize when I started that they had friends over. Their friends came out to find out what was happening, so I told them what my parents had done. Then I left. My parents tried to defend their actions via text, saying I should be so hurt and angry at Amy and not them. When I ignored them, they told me I had no right to humiliate them in front of their friends. My siblings also told me that I shouldn't have said anything to my parents. They said I should understand they were putting me first. I asked them if they thought our parents would have harassed me the same way if I had been in Amy's place, and they couldn't deny that my parents wouldn't have. Am I the idiot? Absolutely not the idiot. As if it isn't bad enough, your parents manipulated your dying spouse. Then they brought your kids into it? You may never feel a need to repartner, and that's perfectly okay. You need to do what's right for you and your kids. It makes me wonder if they have someone in mind they'll try and force onto you. If it was me, I'd take the kids and walk away permanently. What they did is unforgivable in my mind. Dude, your parents are insane. OMG, I don't think there's any coming back from this. They tried to manipulate children and made Amy's final months miserable. I hope you and your children can get past this, and I'd consider never speaking to your emotionally abusive parents and your siblings who support them again. Please keep your children away from your parents. This is no telling what deluded things they'll say to them again. Maybe telling them also to be mad at their mother, or worse. What the heck? Is it your late wife's fault for dying? Good God. No contact with parents and the siblings is the way to go. How horrible that must have been for Amy. For no matter what your parents' intentions were, it sounds to me like they were calling her replaceable. You did well defending her memory, and if your parents genuinely believed they did nothing wrong, they would have no reason to be humiliated if their friends found out. My daughter, middle child, just graduated college and has started working. She's the first in the family to do this, and I decided we needed to celebrate. She's always wanted to go on a cruise, so that's what we're doing in the summer. My youngest also has a birthday around that time, and he asked to go for his birthday present. My daughter agreed, so we're all going to go on the trip. My husband hates the ocean, so he's staying at home with the dogs. My eldest son, 26, is married to Bethany. I was speaking about the trip. This is when they both got upset that they weren't invited. I pointed out that this was a celebration trip for his sister and a birthday present for the youngest. They told me they should have been invited, or at least run the plan by them, since they are part of the family. I had enough and told them that they're entitled if they think I need to run plans by them to go on a celebration vacation that isn't about them. They're mad and I may be an idiot. We usually do a family trip once a year that everyone is invited to. That happened in October and is still happening. My son doesn't have a good relationship with his sister. I don't think he feels isolated. We see them both all the time, and he's never mentioned anything about being isolated. He got a trip when he graduated high school. He can't pay. They're having a tough time scraping by, and I knew the answer would be a no. Also, my daughter doesn't like him. When he went on a trip, his younger siblings didn't join. Celebration trips are not family trips. So, am I the idiot for telling my son and daughter-in-law that they're awfully entitled, thinking I have to run my plans by them? Not the idiot. They are entitled. You can invite them to things when you want to. They can do the same, but they can't crash a party. It's rude, and frankly, you said it exactly right. You don't need to run something by them that isn't about them. The tone was set when you said your middle daughter agreed to your youngest attending. That means the daughter was asked. If you want, tell the eldest that he'd have to ask his sister for permission and that they're more than welcome to book tickets. I agree, except for asking the daughter about the brother going. This is not a family trip. It's a celebration trip for the daughter, and the youngest was allowed to go for their birthday. It's apparent that the daughter doesn't want the older brother to go, since they don't like each other. They weren't asked when the son had his celebration trip. Asking puts the daughter in an uncomfortable position, especially since it's an obvious no. I agree, but OP shouldn't put the daughter in the middle. Making her oldest ask the daughter puts her in an uncomfortable position. Your son is a married adult, and I'm sure does things that don't include his mommy, daddy, and siblings. You're celebrating a huge milestone, not about him, and a birthday, again, not his. Sounds like you're just looking for a free vacation on mom's dime. They sound especially entitled by asking to join a trip with someone they don't get along with. Again, looking for a free vacation. Time for him to grow up. He can wait till October for the family vacation. I have been with my partner for nearly 3 years, and we've lived together for 2 years. I have no family or friends in the town I currently live in, whereas my partner has her parents and many friends here. We moved into a new apartment 4.5 months ago and signed a 1-year lease because we love the apartment. The landlord prefers long-term tenants, so we wouldn't do a 6-month lease. The lease is in both of our names, and the landlord has our bank details. For rent, we both send half each. I noticed that we seem more like friends than a couple, so I tried sitting down with my partner to discuss my concerns, but she just brushed them off and said we were fine. I tried talking to her again a couple of weeks later, but she dismissed my concerns again. After trying to talk to her for the 3rd time and getting dismissed, I told her I didn't think we were working. She asked what brought this on, and I told her I've been trying to talk to her about my concerns, and she refused to listen. She just repeated that that was because everything was fine. I just told her that it wasn't, and that's what I've been trying to talk to her about. I mentioned that since we were both still on the lease for 8 months, and neither of us could afford to break the lease, the charge for this is 4 months' rent. I said I'd stay on the couch. She said no, and that she would move out and move back in with her parents. I said that that was fair enough, and she said I would pay all the rent. I told her that she's still on the lease, so the landlord's still going to expect her to send her half each month, and that just because she moves out, it doesn't mean she's not liable. She said she would not be paying. I told her I would advertise for a roommate, but until then, I would expect her half to be paid. She said that she shouldn't have to pay for an apartment she isn't living in, and I just mentioned that moving out doesn't take her off the lease. She just said that I was being cruel and unreasonable by forcing her to pay the rent. Am I the idiot for still expecting the rent to be paid? I'm going with you are the idiot. Yes, She's a party to a binding agreement, but that was based on your relationship and decision to live together. While you have legal grounds, you're still the idiot in this situation, as her only option is to continue living with you despite not being in a relationship. You decided the relationship wasn't working. Will she start paying rent again if he also moves out a month later? They rented under the assumption that they would pay the rent together. Why should she be able to back out of a binding agreement and leave him with the rent he possibly can't afford and an apartment of a size he doesn't need? OP, you are not the idiot. She's the one who decides to bail on the relationship, and now she thinks she's off the hook for rent just because she's moving out? What planet is she living on? You're absolutely in the right to expect her to fulfill her commitment to the lease until you find a roommate. She's being unreasonable and trying to shirk her responsibilities. I'm a nearly adult female. My parents and I went to dinner at my aunt's house. I didn't want to go because my 35-year-old cousin Jared likes to make fun of my appearance. I'm tall and skinny, but Dad convinced me to go. Jared was already at the dinner table and introducing his girlfriend, Melody, to everyone. Surprisingly, he didn't make fun of me like he usually did when we first saw each other. Now, I was told by Jared's sister that Jared shaved off all his hair 2 years ago because he was getting bald patches and was embarrassed about them. So anyway, during dinner, Jared finally turned his attention to me. At the time, everyone was quiet and asked me loudly, "Hey, OP, do you think you'll ever put on some weight? You're starting to look anorexic." I just snapped and said, "I don't know. Do you think you'll ever grow hair where your bald patches are?" He got angry and started cussing at me, and I asked him if he had a spare brush for me so I could brush his hair. He was told to leave, so he and Melody left. Melody broke up with him that night. Now I'm getting the blame. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. This is amazing. LOL. No 35-year-old should be saying mean stuff to a teen. Props to you for standing up for yourself with some fantastic comebacks. I can pretty much guarantee you the reason the girlfriend broke up with him is not because of his baldness. It's because he's a fully grown adult bullying a kid. Lack of kindness is one of the most unattractive qualities possible, especially towards someone much younger than you. Your cousin is an idiot and got what he deserved. I bet that if it was good-natured and he laughed and complimented you on your comeback, then they'd still be together. Instead, his girlfriend saw a small-minded man who bullies his younger cousin without being able to take replies without getting angry. Darling, it's not your fault he can dish it out, but can't take it. I dated a girl for a while and she was great, and it was going well. During a visit to her family's place, she had this awful connection with her parents, just naggy and shouting between them for no reason. I realized that's how she probably talked to me once we got further along and more comfortable. I dumped her shortly afterward. Thanks to you, Melody could see how he reacts when he's not on his best behavior. That's the reason why she dumped him. Well done, and congratulations to Melody. I, a teen female, own several horses and train horses that have never been handled to be ridden and have been riding for 10 years now. My pony is Prince, a 5-year-old Connemara. Prince is not a rescue. We bought him last year. He's young and scared of bicycles. He snorts and prances, but as long as they aren't too loud or close enough to touch, he doesn't buck or kick. I always talk to the bikes if they're coming too close. I normally do this by saying, "Excuse me, can you slow down? He's scared of bikes." But I often don't need to. I rode him down one of my favorite trails, about 2 meters wide. I meet a bike on here about once every time I go down there. He has never misbehaved, and I think it helps desensitize him. However, that day, a rainy Sunday, when it would normally be deserted, there were around 30 teens on bikes with headphones in, so they couldn't hear me. When I realized there were more than usual, I could not turn around because he gets far more upset when they come from behind. I pulled him off the path and walked him along the thin grass verge to try to get him as far from them as possible. I considered dismounting, but he tends to get more agitated and less easily controlled on the ground. By the time most of them had passed, I had to pull him back onto the path because there were dense trees on either side. At that point, he spotted an abandoned shopping trolley, and I let him look at it and move past at his speed, as the path was empty apart from a family about 20 meters behind us, just entering the tree area and blocking us in. Enter Darren, 40s male. He was cycling toward us, and I could feel an already anxious Prince approach the boiling point. I asked him to slow down or possibly dismount his bike. He didn't. If anything, he sped up and said, "Why?" I said quite loudly, because he was getting close, "He's really scared of bikes." And Darren said, "How's that my problem?" in a really passive-aggressive voice. I completely lost it. I yelled, "It becomes your problem when he kicks you and puts you in the hospital and breaks your bike, and you have to pay because you broke the highway code." The dad from the family behind me starts saying, "Just stop, man." Prince is starting to rear, and I'm concerned for his safety and mine because the path is concrete. So I push him as far into the trees as he'll go, while Darren cycles merrily on his way while swearing at me. He also nearly cycled into the family's stroller behind on purpose, so the mom had to jump out of the way. It took me ages to calm Prince down, and it has majorly set us back in training. My dad says that I shouldn't have yelled at him. Am I the idiot for yelling at a guy on a bike who ignored my warnings? Edit. I'm in the UK, where the highway code says that there are 2 or more meters between any vehicle and a horse. I was wearing lots of high vis. I couldn't exit the trail because Prince wasn't listening and the family was blocking us. To be clear, it was a bridleway designated for horses, but walkers and bikers are allowed too. Horses are very common here, and most people know how to avoid them. Not the idiot. Get yourself a helmet camera to film your outing so that when something happens, you have proof to protect yourself. The law might be on your side and require people to keep a certain distance, but you know how people can be. They will not accept responsibility. Honestly, the fact that he caused not just issues for you, but for a mother as well, tells me he's a problem. I'd be tempted to share the footage. Darren deserves a social consequence. If he's being such a menace on the trail, then others should be warned. Also, the reason your dad told you not to yell is because these idiots usually don't care about anything, and they will escalate. It's more about your safety than being right. You have some right psychos out there. Get a camera for your safety. There may also be a bit of a be a good girl coming in here. I didn't have to look to know that OP was female. You have the right to protect yourself and your property on a horse or a night out. Yes, be careful of escalating, but with other people around, never be afraid of standing up for yourself.